Okay, I am going to be going over chapter 16 of the 4th edition of Basics of Biblical Greek Grammar by William D. Mouse. I am reviewing it. I was going to review it a little bit before I kind of gave this talk, I guess. I'm the only one that's watching it, so, it doesn't matter. But I think it's better if I just record myself as I read through it because it kind of helps me focus more. All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm reading, there's the section overview that goes over chapters 15 through 20. And so I'm going to read the segment out of the overview, which is just kind of a condensed version of the chapter. And then, depending on how I feel about it from there, I'm going to go through the actual chapter itself to kind of review. I might try and, I don't know what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try and learn. How about that? Okay. Chapter 16. The present active indicative is the form of a verb used to describe an action that normally occurs in the present. That seems like a pretty basic form of a verb. You form it by combining the present tense stem with a connecting vowel and personal endings. I will give you a chart like the following for each part of the verbal system. It is key to memorize. So it goes present tense system plus connecting vowel plus primary active personal endings. And the example it gives is lu, o, men. So luomen. So there's the present tense stem, which is lu. There's the connecting vowel, which is o. And then there's the primary active personal endings, which is men. So luomen. The connecting vowels are omega, or what is that? Epsilon? Yeah, I think that's epsilon. And are added between the tense. Yeah, that is epsilon. The other one I was thinking of was eta, but anyway. The connecting vowels are omega. No, that's not omega. That's omicron. I'm just a mess. Or omicron or epsilon. So one that looks like an O and the other one that looks like an E. So there you go. And are added between the tense stem and the personal ending to make pronunciation smoother. Remember, a verb must agree with its subject in person and number. Again, a verb must agree with its subject in person and number. It does this by adding personal endings to the end of the verb. Because there are 3 persons and 2 numbers, there are 6 personal endings for the present active. There are only 4 sets of personal endings, 24 forms in all, and you will learn the first set with the present active. Then it has a little chart here. So it gives, yeah, it would be hard to describe without actually looking at it, but yeah, there's active voice with primary tenses, so present active or something to that effect. And then there's luo, lues, lue, luomen, luete, and luousi or luosine. After showing you the chart, I show you the paradigm of how the personal endings attach to the verb. There's another chart. So there's luo, which is I am loosing, lues, which is you are loosing, lue, which is he, she, or it is loosing, luomen, which is we are loosing, and luete, which is you are loosing. Oh, and there's luosi, which is they are loosing. So there's the forms of that. Then I introduce you to the master indicative verb chart. This is the other chart you must memorize. You must memorize. It shows you how the verb is put together in the different tenses. Either you can memorize hundreds and hundreds of verbal forms, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me personally, or you can memorize this chart. I think this is easier. You're welcome. Let's see, master indicative verb chart. So there's the present active. There's the present. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. And that's the end of the summary. So let's go ahead and look through chapter 16. I don't think I'll read the entirety of it, should I? I don't know, maybe I will. How big is this chapter? It's a pretty good sized chapter. Yeah, man, we'll see. We'll just start and see where it takes us. Okay, chapter 16. And this is the actual chapter, not just the summary. Chapter 16, Present Active Indicative. Exegetical Insight. One of the elements of Greek grammar that you will meet in this lesson is that if a sentence does not contain a word in the nominative, sorry. One of the elements of Greek grammar that you will meet in this lesson is that if a sentence does not contain a word in the nominative, the subject is included in the verb itself. You can tell what pronoun to use as the subject by the ending on the verb. But if the Greek sentence has a pronoun in the nominative, the author is placing emphasis on the subject of the verb. Numerous times in John's Gospel, beginning with John 6:35, Jesus uses the pronoun ego with the verb to be in the expression ego eimi ha. I am the ... See also, and then it lists a bunch of verses. In each case, he is emphasizing who he is. For example, when Jesus says ego eimi ha, artos tes zoes, in 6:35, he is, as it were, pointing a finger towards himself and saying, if you want spiritual nourishment in your life, then look to me, and me only, for I am the bread of life. The other ego eimi verses have a similar emphasis. Anything that we want in our spiritual lives we can find by looking to our blessed Savior Jesus Christ. There is more. Jesus' use of ego eimi harks back to the Old Testament, to the story of Moses when he is approached by God at the burning bush in Exodus 3. When Moses challenged the Lord to give his name, God replied by saying, in the Septuagint, ego eimi ha-on. Ego eimi ha-on. I am the one who is. That is, Yahweh is the great I am. Jesus taps into this famous title for God when he says to the Jews, before Abraham was, I am, ego eimi. John 8:58, ascribing to himself the very same name that Yahweh used in the Old Testament concerning himself. And this same name and expression underlie all of Jesus' ego eimi statements in John's Gospel. Overview. In this chapter, you will learn that the present tense in the indicative describes an action that usually occurs in the present time. That the aspect of the present tense can be perfective or imperfective. The three parts to a present active indicative verb, present tense, stem, connecting vowel, personal ending. The root is the most basic form of a verb. Its stem is the form of the root in a particular tense. Okay, so again, that's the root is the most basic form of a verb. Its stem is the form of the root in a particular tense. Okay. The primary active personal endings. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just kind of read around a little bit. English. The present indicative describes an action normally occurring in the present time. This is English again. The active voice is used when the subject is performing the action of the verb. The indicative mood describes a fact or asks a question. For example, I see a tall giraffe. See describes an action that is being performed by the subject of the sentence, I, at the present time. So Greek. The present active indicative verb in Greek is basically the same as in English. It describes an action that normally occurs in the present. It is almost always imperfective. For example, I am studying. Overview chart. Yeah, we pretty much already went over this. Just talking about the present tense stem plus the connecting vowel, which is either omicron or epsilon, plus the primary active personal ending. And again, there's lu. So lu is the stem. Lu is the verb at its core. And there's o, or I guess that would be ah, lua. That's a connecting vowel. That's the omicron. So lu, ah. And then finally at the end you have the primary active personal ending, which is men. So you take all that together. There's the stem lu, there's the connecting vowel ah, and then there's the personal ending men, which is luamen. Which, if we look at this translation over here at a different chart on 16.6, we see that luamen is we are loosing. So that men is what tells us the we are. That's what tells us who we're talking about here. So yeah, that's how it breaks down. Okay, 16.5. The forms of our paradigms from top to bottom are first, second, and third person singular, and then first, second, and third person plural. From left to right, I list the inflected form, definition, the connecting vowel, and the personal ending. The connecting vowels and personal endings are colored blue in the inflected column. In some paradigms, I include a similar paradigm for comparison in the far right column. Be sure you can identify the true personal ending after it has been joined with the connecting vowel. Okay. Yeah, all right. Cool. Master endings chart. Yeah, I already get the general idea of that. Really, it's just a matter of I need to memorize some things. I'll get on that. Yeah, I guess I'll read these last bits here just so I know. 16.12 says personal pronouns are in the nominative. Because the personal ending indicates person, it is generally unnecessary to supply the personal pronoun at the subject of, as the subject of the verb. Greek could say I love Robin by writing ego agapo Robin, or simply agapo Robin. So I guess the pronoun is implied within the verb. Yeah, I knew that, but I haven't been doing that, so I need to start working on that. When a personal pronoun does occur, it can be for emphasis, sometimes by way of contrast. Sometimes it is difficult to determine why it is included. Ego agapo Robin would be saying, I love Robin. The combination of the personal pronoun and the I in the verb creates an emphatic expression. So it's not necessary, but if you want to include ego, that would make it very specific that it was you who loved Robin, or I that loved Robin. Uk os ego thelo al os su. Not as I will, but as you will. Jesus autos uk ebaptizen al oi mathetai autou is Jesus was not baptizing, but his disciples. Peter is wanting to separate him and the other disciples from the rich young ruler in this following sentence. A mace aphekamen panta kai a kaluthekamen soy. We have left everything and followed you. Yeah, so in all of these examples, it gives a personal pronoun, even though it's not necessary because it's built into the verb. So in all these examples, they're being particularly emphatic about the fact that I am the guy that's doing the thing, or we are the people that's doing the thing, or, Jesus was the person who did whatever, being very specific on the person. Some teachers ask you to translate the nominative form of the pronoun with an intensive pronoun. I myself, Robin. Jesus himself was not baptizing. Others permit you to avoid the awkward English and simply to recognize that the emphasis is there. Check with your teacher. Summary. The present active indicative describes an action that usually occurs in the present time. The present tense verb is composed of three parts: present verbal stem, connecting vowel, and primary personal ending. The root is the most basic form of a verb. Its stem is the form of the root in a particular tense. I'm kind of rushing through these. I'm gonna start over. I apologize, future Adam. You're gonna have to listen to some repetition. The present active indicative describes an action that usually occurs in the present time. Got it. Number 2, the present tense verb is composed of three parts: present verbal stem, connecting vowel, and primary personal ending. Got it. Number 3, the root is the most basic form of verb. Stem is the form of the root in a particular tense. Got it. In the indicative mood, if the personal ending begins with what's the name of that again? I don't know. M in Greek. Or nu. Mu? Yeah, mu. If it begins with mu or nu, the connecting vowel is omicron. Otherwise, the connecting vowel is epsilon. I did not know that. If the personal ending begins with mu or nu, the connecting vowel is omicron. Otherwise, the connecting vowel is epsilon. Interesting. If there is no personal ending, the connecting vowel can either be omicron or epsilon. Number 5, a verb agrees with the subject. A verb agrees with its subject in person and number. All right. The present active tense uses the primary active endings omega, ace, a, amen, ete, and usin. The real personal endings are blank, sigma, iota, men, te, and nc. So these are things I need to memorize. A movable nu can be added to the third person plural personal ending. Personal pronouns in the nominative are generally emphasizing the subject, often in contrast to someone else. Okay, yeah. And then there's this master indicative verb chart that it might behoove me to memorize. And I think that's pretty much it for chapter 16. Not too terribly complicated. I think I pretty much knew all this to begin with, but it's good to refresh it. So that's good. And I can always review back later and check this again as is needed. Yeah, so there you go.